Hey guys, this is Tierlis here with another Warlords of Draenor beta video. In this video I'm going to be looking at balanced druids and the main changes that are coming to balanced druids for Warlords of Draenor. I will also be looking at two small visual changes to balanced druids. I'll be looking at their new and changed abilities. I'll be looking at their changed glyphs, their brand new Draenor perks, and their talents. So getting into it, for balanced druids, really quickly, there were a few abilities pruned from balanced druids. The major ones that are noticeable are Symbiosis, which has been removed just because it caused button bloat across the entire class. And then the other one that was removed was Travel Form has been condensed down into one form. If you notice, I'll click Travel Form right here, and it'll put me in Flight Form. It all depends on the medium. If I'm in the water, it'll transform me into Aquatic Form. If I'm in an area where flying is not allowed, it'll transform me into Cheetah Form. So that just saves, 2 buttons for Balanced Druid as a whole. Now, with those two things out of the way, there are some major changes to the Balanced Druid class. First, we're going to talk about the Eclipse bar. If you notice in the top left corner, the Eclipse bar is still there. I'm going to go ahead and shift into my star form, and I'm going to go ahead and cast Moonfire. Now, as you notice in the top left corner, it is constantly moving up, and it's going to hit the max, and then it'll flip the other direction and start heading back down the other direction. The way that Eclipse works now is that it works like a sine wave. If you don't know what a sine wave is a mathematical term to describe oscillation. And if you don't know what oscillation is, just think it's back and forth movement. So now, when you're in combat, you will constantly be moving back and forth between lunar and solar cycle. Now, you may have noticed, as it has been moving back and forth, that my Sunfire and Moonfire have changed. And that is one change that comes with the new Eclipse status, and that is Moonfire and Sunfire are no longer their own separate abilities that you can use at any time. Now you can only use Moonfire during a lunar eclipse, and you can only use Sunfire during a solar eclipse. And there is an ability that changes how Moonfire and Sunfire operate, so it won't be as... there's actually an advantage to having both of them up at the same time, a little bit different. So with that being said, there's one third major change to the Balanced Druid class, and that is how Starsurge and Starfall function. Right now, you've seen a few Shooting Stars procs come up on my screen. It still functions essentially the same. It's changed a little bit, and I'll explain that in a second. But you'll notice that I have 3 charges down here. I can go ahead and use Starsurge 3 times in a row, or 4 because I got a Starsurge proc, because they give it 3 charges, and these 3 charges are shared between Starsurge and Starfall. They are basically you have your single target in Starsurge, and then you have your AoE target in Starfall. And they're on a continuous, recharge cycle. I can't remember what the cooldown is. Let's go ahead and test right here. It's a 30-second cooldown before you get the charge back. So I believe Starsurge used to be on about a 15-second cooldown. Well, now you get 3 charges on 30-second cooldown. So it's about the equivalent of having a 10-second cooldown on Starsurge. And you can still get it back through shooting stars. Now, we're going to head into the new special visual changes to these spells. Excuse me there. One you'll notice is the star form. That is for Boomkin's form. It's just a little bit different. You used to have those little glowy stars kind of fall down around you, but now it's like changes your entire body to make it kind of an ethereal type of thing, and it's like Shadow Form for Shadow Priest, so even if you mount up, it makes your entire mount that kind of glowy status, which is pretty cool. The other spell visual ties in directly to what we were talking about earlier with Starsurge and Starfall, and that is the new Starfall. Starfall no longer hits only 2 targets in range, it hits every target. So when I pop here, you're going to see something pretty cool. Starfall now hits everything in range, and honestly, it's one of the coolest looking spells now in game, just to pop that. and you cannot pop multiple at the same time. You have to wait till one runs out and then you can pop it again, but still really cool visual change. Now, abilities that have been removed from the Druid class. As a whole, Hibernate is gone, Innervate is gone, Nature's Grasp is gone. I know that means a lot to Balance. And Balance also lost Nature's Swiftness and Tranquility. They're spec alone. Restoration still has Nature's Swiftness and Tranquility, but Balance no longer has access to those abilities. Furthermore, Euphoria, which was a Balance passive, has been removed, and that's because that's directly due to the change of how Eclipse works. Lunar Shower, which was the ability that allowed your Moonfire and Sunfire to gain more damage while you're on the move and cost less mana, that has been removed. Owlkin Frenzy has been removed. Wild Mushroom Detonate has been removed. If you'll notice right here, I'm going to pop a Wild Mushroom on these targets right here, and it's going to instantly activate. So there's no longer an actual detonate, it's just it automatically activates for you. Those are the abilities that have been removed from the Balance class. The abilities that have been changed for Balance is Astral Communication. This is in direct change of how the new Eclipse bar works. I'm going to go ahead and get the Eclipse bar running with a Moonfire, and then I'm going to use Astral Communication. You're going to see how much quicker it goes while it's channeling. So that's just a short change for Astral Communication. Shooting Stars, which gives you the Shooting Stars proc to give you more Star Surges. Its chance has been reduced down to, I believe, 5%, and it only works on your most recent Moonfire or Sunfire, but it will continue to generate charges, all the way up until you hit 3. So you shouldn't notice too much of a change there in Starsurge. Wild Mushroom, as I mentioned before, it now automatically applies, so that's not something I need to go over. Cyclone has lost some ability in PvP. It now shares diminishing returns with fears and can be cancelled by immunity effects such as Divine Shield and Ice Block, and it can be dispelled by Mass Dispel. And also Solar Beam. Solar Beam will only silence a target once. So if you're silenced by Solar Beam, you can't be re-silenced by the same Solar Beam. So that's a small change that they put in so that you're not constantly being silenced by the same Solar Beam. As far as new abilities are concerned, there's only really one new one that is been brought to the Balance class, and that is Astral Showers. And this is the one that affects your Moonfire and Sunfire. So right now I am in a... For some reason I'm stuck. Okay, there we go. I'm going to cast Sunfire right here. And you'll notice that it does AoE damage to all the targets around him. That's one part of Astral Showers. The other part of Astral Showers is it doubles the damage of Moonfire and doubles the duration of Moonfire. So it adds some, I guess, depth and difference between the two dots that Balance has, and I guess makes the rotation more interesting. So going into Glyphs for Druids, they lost Glyph of Omens, but that is another thing that is directly related to the loss of the old Eclipse bar. However, they have learned several new glyphs, and I'll go ahead and look at them right here. One of them is Astral Communication, which is your Astral Communication. It can now be used while moving. I'm not sure, that may have already been in the game, but I guess they consider it a new glyph considering how it the changes to the Eclipse bar. There is Glyph of Ursol's Defense, which increases your armor in bear form by an additional 210%, so that gives bear form, a kind of extra defensive measure for balanced druids. There is Glyph of Celestial Alignment. Celestial Alignment now lasts 60 seconds or until 8 spells have been cast with it active, whichever occurs first. There is Glyph of Sudden Eclipse, which, while not in an eclipse state, critical attacks done to you restore 20 solar or lunar energy, whichever is more beneficial to you. Right now this is in game, but it doesn't make sense because it doesn't work with the new Eclipse, bar. So I'm guessing that this is going to be removed, and I believe that balanced druids are going to be receiving possibly some new glyphs here in the future, because they're getting a lot of their glyphs gutted because of how the Eclipse bar has changed. Lastly, there is Glyph of Moon Warding, which is Boomkin form no longer grants bonus armor, but instead grants 10% increased maximum health. So, just some new glyphs in there, some changed ones, and even though I mentioned, I believe, Glyph of Sudden Eclipse, I do not believe that's going to be sticking around for a while. That probably will be either changed or removed in the near future. Currently, there is no place for me to actively go and show you the Draenor perks. Right now, the Draenor perks are kind of a mess for druids because they were all applied to the old Eclipse model. The new Eclipse model is actually relatively new on beta realms, so they haven't really brought out new Draenor perks to kind of compensate for the changes. However, the ones that I do have here are Enhanced Storms, which is your hurricane also causes affected targets to take 10% additional damage from your Moonfire, Sunfire, and Starfall. There is Enhanced Moonkin form, which your Moonkin form grants an additional 100% armor increase. There is Enhanced Starsurge, which is Starsurge is now instant. So it used to be that shooting stars granted an instant cast Starsurge. Well, now once you hit level 100, your Starsurge will always be instant cast whether there is a shooting stars proc or not. When you're 90, you'll have to cast it every time, and then somewhere between 90 and level 99 you'll hopefully get that Draenor perks that gives you that instant Starsurge. Probably one of the more sought after Draenor perks. And then last, there's Empowered Starfall, which increases the duration of your Starfall by 20%. That's all I have right now. The others have been pretty much gutted, and we'll see what balanced druids get in the future to compensate for that. Now, with all of that out of the way, the last thing to look at are the brand new talents for druids. I cannot give you an honest opinion on how these talents will play out and which is the most sought after talent, because quite honestly, this spec is still a complete mess for the community to even figure out how it is going to operate. So I can't give you any idea of how the new rotation will look. All I can tell you is how the new system operates and everything that goes with it. So looking at this first talent right here, you have Euphoria. You feel a deeper connection to the stars, reducing your balance energy cycle time by some percentage. Additionally, your lunar and solar empowerments also reduce the cast time on affected spells by 20%. So basically, your Wrath and your Starfire will now will have a 20% reduction on their cast time, depending on which empowerment you are in. And then your cycle time, going back and forth between lunar and solar, will be increased. So it'll go a lot faster being between the two sides of the Eclipse state. The talent on the right side here is Balance of Power. It has been renamed and redone. You align the power of the moon and the stars so that your direct damage spells re-energize your damage over time effects. Your Starfires extend the duration of Moonfire by 6 seconds, and your Wrath extend the duration of Sunfire by 4 seconds. This also increases your damage over time of your Moonfire and Sunfire by 10%. This literally, from a rotation that I have done, has completely eliminated having to recast Moonfire and Sunfire for the rest of the time. So that makes things really easy. I don't know, as I said, I don't know what the theory crafters are thinking right now, so I don't know if there's going to be a change. The last here is Stellar Flare, which is another dot. It is a castable dot, and it's pretty powerful, and it's done with Starsurge damage, so you're kind of immune to spell school lockouts, such as nature lockouts or specifically arcane lockouts. And I'll go ahead and show it to you. It is one of the most impressive spell visuals that they put in the game. It's kind of like a moon cannon as opposed to a moon fire, so it's pretty cool. Let's go ahead and use it right here. It used to be even more crazier, but they toned down the visual a little bit for the sake of our eyes. And I mean, I can use it anywhere. But it's definitely one of the cooler ones. You know, I procced there with a 19k crit off that. I wonder how that compares to like a Starsurge. Starsurge is normal 23, so not bad damage for a dot. So can't complain there. Regular damage is 8k. So if I were to cast a Wrath here in Eclipse, 13k. So it's not bad. It looks like it'll be a fun talent. I don't know if balanced druids will be taking it in PvE. With the changes of how things are going, their rotation is already, I think, somewhat complex. And it's really complex when it gets into AoE, because you have Starfall for AoE, and then you have that Sunfire dot for AoE and Hurricane on the other side. So there's a lot of changes to the balanced class. I personally feel it's going to be a lot more difficult, but we'll see how things turn out. They're still kind of tuning the spec, and I will be happy to bring out more information as it becomes available. But the overall status of the class, this is what it's going to be, this new Eclipse bar and everything. And honestly, I'm really excited. Boomkin was my very first class ever. I leveled in vanilla WoW as a Boomkin, which is, well, they didn't have Moonkins at the time, but I leveled as Balance at the time, which was utterly crazy back in the vanilla days. So I'm actually really excited to be going back to Boomkin status. So that takes care of the entire balance video. I will update you if anything goes on that changes in the balance video, because this is definitely an ongoing process. They, you know, are going to be tweaking things here and there, but this is kind of the core of what's going to be going on. I apologize for this video being so long, but there was a lot to talk about with balanced druids. So that's everything. The next video that will be coming out will be Rep Paladins. Otherwise, I'll see you guys later. Tierlis out.